Welcome back to Movies Outpost. Today we'll be diving into an action thriller movie titled The Ice Road. Enjoy the recap. Down at the heart of the Katka Diamond Mine in frosty Manitoba, miners dig relentlessly beneath the surface. Renee Lampard, ever diligent, inspects the crucial methane sensors, finding them eerily unresponsive. Shift Supervisor Mankins is caught off guard, unable to deduce the glitch. He presses on the significance of those sensors being operational non-stop. As an unsuspecting truck journeys across the icy terrain, it's abruptly jolted sideways by a sudden explosion, tumbling down a steep cliff. Mankins gets the news from Renee about the methane pocket getting pierced. In a moment of sheer terror, he bellows to the miners, "Everyone out!" Panic ensues as miners scramble for the above-ground exit, pursued closely by a giant ball of flame. Amidst the chaos, General Manager Sickle bolts from his office. Simultaneously, in North Dakota, trucker Mike McCann is en route to meet his brother. He pulls over and walks into a troubling scene where Gertie, his brother and an Iraq war veteran dealing with PTSD and dysphagia, is being cruelly mocked. Gertie struggles with speech due to brain damage. An insensitive jibe from Johansson asking Mike about his friendship with Gertie ends with a swift knockout punch. Consequently, both Mike and Gertie are sacked. Packing their bags and Skeeter, Gertie's pet rat, the brothers bid farewell. Mike escorts Gertie to the VA medical center, promising that they'd take good care of him. Dr. Talbot welcomes Gertie, calming him about the upcoming tests and promising a secure place to live if he's eligible for rehab. Back at Katka, Deputy Minister O'Toole gives firm instructions to Tager, the VP of Operations, and Sickle to keep everyone clear of the mines. Meanwhile, Tully, the safety supervisor at the mine, walks up to Jim Goldenrod, a seasoned veteran of the big rig game. In a dire briefing, Tully informs Goldenrod about the catastrophic collapse of Tunnel 6 at Katka Mine. The mission? An urgent delivery of an 18-foot gas wellhead and a staggering 300 feet of pipe. And the catch, all this in less than 30 hours. Goldenrod takes up the mantle, agreeing to this daunting task with the caveat that he'd need a team of drivers and a mechanic. He urges Tully to get the authorities to reopen the perilous ice road. Meanwhile, at the medical center, Mike stumbles upon a heavily sedated Gertie, boiling with fury at the sight. He confronts Dr. Talbot, threatening to expose the overuse of opioids on America's heroes by the VA. Gertie, pulled from this situation by Mike, leaves with him. An emergency alert blares on Mike's phone at a gas station, a cry for ice road drivers. News of the twin blasts at Katka Mine reverberates through the airwaves, announcing the tragic loss of 8 miners with another 26 unaccounted for. Goldenrod, on a different mission, springs Tantu from jail. She's got a personal stake in the disaster. Her brother Cody is a miner at Katka. She pledges to steer a rig on the ice road to Winnipeg, ensuring the delivery of the wellheads. Meeting with Goldenrod, Mike and Gertie are asked about their patchy work history. Mike divulges the truth he's been taking care of Gertie. Goldenrod sets Gertie up with a challenge, timing him on pulling a rocker arm shaft in the workshop. The outcome? An impressed Goldenrod hires them on the spot. Tantu makes her entrance, parking the rig and tossing the keys to Goldenrod before joining the team. Back at the crisis-stricken mine, trapped miners pick up Morse code signals. Sickle commands Fred to relay a hopeful message they're aiming to cap the methane with wellheads before launching a rescue mission. Cody, deciphering the message, shares the promise of the wellheads arriving as swiftly as possible. Meanwhile, in the mine office, Tager and Sickle grapple with the logistical nightmare of getting the wellheads to the beleaguered Katka Mine. At Goldenrod's base of operations, he breaks down the deal to the drivers. A hefty 200 grand reward, divided evenly among the 4 of them. If any member doesn't make it, their share gets distributed among the survivors. Joining their team is Tom Varney, representing Katka Insurance Group. His ride, the black rig with Tantu. As Skeeter takes his front seat post and Gertie conducts a final check, Mike proposes a strategic shortcut, the old Manitonka Bridge. This detour might get them to Katka within the dwindling oxygen window of the miners. As they commence their icy trek, the miners at Katka attempt to conserve oxygen, their lifeline predicted to last another 26 hours. Driving through the chilling night, Goldenrod voices concern about the morning sun potentially melting the ice. Mike admires the red Kenworth rig, dreaming about owning a similar one. A beaming Gertie imagines a name for their future rig, Truck. Suddenly their progress is stalled as Goldenrod's engine grinds to a halt. Quick thinking sees Mike and Tantu reverse their rigs to tow Goldenrod. They attach the nylon pulleys at the back for sway control while Gertie jumps in to troubleshoot, but disaster strikes. The ice beneath the trailer snaps, trapping Goldenrod's leg as the rig plunges into the icy depths. With heavy hearts, Tantu cuts the strap binding Goldenrod, watching helplessly as he drowns. The remaining team ties their rigs together, pressing on. The race against time intensifies as cracks spider across the ice at a terrifying pace. Ready for the worst, Gertie and Varney prep themselves themselves to abandon ship at a moment's notice. As the trucks fishtail and roll, the redistributed weight halts the menacing pressure wave. Meanwhile, Cody at Katka decrypts a grim message. The mission to deliver the wellheads has failed. Back on the ice road, Varney suggests a retreat, but Mike points out the looming storm. The journey must continue. Suspicion taints the air as Varney shares his doubts about Tantu with Mike. They confront her about her past with Goldenrod, accusing her of sabotaging his rig as a bitter revenge for her past dismissal. Cornered, she pulls out a gun, but a swift Gertie disarms her and ties her up. While working to restore the toppled rigs, Mike makes a call. He verifies that Tantu's brother, Cody Mantooth, indeed works at the endangered mine. Down in the trapped depths of Katka, Mankins approaches Cody and Renee with a chilling proposition: decrease their numbers before oxygen runs out. Cody relays the grim proposition to his fellow miners, initiating a dreadful vote on who gets to live. Mankins confirms their worst fears. Some of them will not survive this ordeal. Meanwhile, Mike stumbles upon Varney just in time to be locked in the rear of the rig with Gertie. Varney commandeers the rig, leaving with a captive Tantu who accuses him of being the true saboteur. In response, he knocks her unconscious. The plot thickens as Varney attaches a stick of dynamite to Mike's rig, ignites the fuse, and speeds away. Trapped, Mike and Gertie use a steel pipe to frantically bash their way through the heating system. As they break free, Mike spots the burning fuse. He lunges out, hurling the dynamite away just as it explodes. The deafening explosion echoes behind Varney as he barrels down the ice road with the unconscious Tantu. Back at the rig, Mike and Gertie share a victorious high-five, only for the ice to crack under them, causing the Kenworth's front wheels to sink. In a desperate bid to salvage their rig, Mike and Gertie hatch a plan. As they work to winch the trailer from the icy grip, Mike urges Gertie to increase the winch pressure. Gertie foresees the impending disaster, trying to warn Mike, but it's too late. As Mike attempts to drive the rig out, the winch gives way, plunging Gertie and the trailer into the icy abyss. Unyielding, Mike ties himself to the truck and plunges into the frigid depths after his brother. He hauls a lifeless Gertie out of the icy grip, struggling to pull him into the cab. His efforts pay off as he revives Gertie, apologizing to his brother for the mishap. They agree to save Tantu from Varney, who they realize was the architect of their troubles all along. As Varney approaches Katka, a groggy Tantu watches Sickle join him. Varney feeds Sickle a fabricated story of Mike and Gertie's demise in the explosion while Tantu survived. Sickle instructs him to drive the cab off a cliff, making it seem like a tragic end to their rescue attempt, with Varney heroically escaping at the last moment. With the miners' oxygen set to deplete in just 3 hours, they need to sell their tragic tale. Back in the mine, Renee demands clarity about Mankins' claims of management's fault. Cody reveals that the management tricked them into disabling the sensors, promising them there were no gas pockets in the far north. Their silence was bought for $100 per miner per month, but Mankins dismisses the revelations, pointing out their dwindling oxygen levels as the real crisis. As Mike and Gertie near the mine, Varney positions the rig above the road, ready to set Sickle's plot in motion. Varney, preparing to execute his plan, places Tantu in the driver's seat. However, he hears a squeaking sound emanating from Gertie's bag, which he'd grabbed before setting the dynamite. The source of the noise is none other than Skeeter, who delivers a well-timed bite that distracts Varney long enough for Tantu to seize the moment and push him out of the truck. As Katka contractors give chase, Tantu sends out a desperate mayday call. Mike responds, informing her they're on their way. As she discloses her location, Varney eavesdrops. The race against time intensifies as they now have only 2 hours to reach the mine before oxygen runs out. To make matters worse, Tantu notices her fuel tank nearing empty, the result of Varney's sabotage. Meanwhile, Mike and Gertie find themselves pursued by snowmobile riding contractors who flank the rig and leap onto the running boards, guns in hand. A chaotic fight ensues, with Gertie falling out of the cab along with 2 attackers. The brawl continues, but Mike eventually gains the upper hand, using an ice pick to his advantage. Gertie, meanwhile, fights off an attack of his own, managing to choke his assailant to death after enduring a brutal beating. With determination in his eyes, Mike steps out of the cab, urging Gertie to join him. Tantu's rig comes to a halt, drained of fuel, as Varney approaches from behind. In a desperate act of self-defense, Tantu fires at him, narrowly missing her target. Just as hope begins to fade, Mike and Gertie arrive in their truck, swiftly accelerating and ramming Varney's car, sending it careening off the cliff's edge. With the immediate threat neutralized, Mike reassures Tantu that Gertie has the skills to repair her fuel equalizer. Together, they siphon enough fuel for Tantu to continue her journey to Katka with the remaining wellhead, ensuring the critical delivery. Varney, having survived the earlier altercation, spots a snowmobile and makes his escape. As Mike and Gertie assist Tantu, Mike quips about Gertie's resilience, likening him to a takes-a-licking but keeps-on-ticking commercial. Their brief moment of calm is shattered when Varney, from his hilltop position, sets off an avalanche with his remaining dynamite. Despite the oncoming avalanche, the team decides to press on. Mike and Gertie manage to outrun the snowfall and reverse back to Tantu's rig, which has been damaged by the snow and a piercing branch that injured Tantu. Mike lays out their new plan. They'll haul her trailer off the cliff, hook it up to their own truck, and press on to Katka. With only 45 minutes of oxygen left for the miners, their mission has never been more critical. With the wellhead secured to their truck, they continue the desperate drive to Katka. Meanwhile, at the mine offices, Tully informs Sickles that Mine Safety has requested Renee's laptops and that the CEO is set to arrive within the hour. Despite the increasing pressure, Sickles maintains his cool, assuring Tager that there's nothing in their email exchanges that could incriminate them. Back in the mine, the trapped miners struggle for each breath as their dwindling oxygen supply approaches critical levels. On the road to Katka, Gertie spots Tantu's rig, now driven by Varney, who attempts to overtake them. The group barrels down the closed Manitonka ice road, with Varney ruthlessly ramming into Mike's rig. Sensing the escalating danger, Mike passes the wheel to Gertie, instructing him to keep driving no matter what. Mike then makes his way onto Varney's rig, resulting in a fierce fight that ends with both of them tumbling out of the cab. Meanwhile, Gertie reaches the bridge leading to Katka, hesitating due to its precarious condition. Tantu reassures Gertie, claiming she can guide them safely across the old bridge despite its inability to support the weight of their heavy rig. As they venture onto the bridge, Gertie deploys traction pads to combat the slippery ice. On the ice road, the brutal confrontation between Mike and Varney continues. They race towards the moving rig, with Mike managing to push Varney out of the door as he seizes control. However, Varney climbs back in, and their brawl resumes until Mike finally subdues him. Mike then jumps out of the rig moments before it plunges through the unstable ice, taking Varney with it. Back on the bridge, Tantu and Gertie barely make it across before the supporting cables give way, snapping under the immense weight. Hearing the commotion, Mike runs towards them. As they assess the situation, the rig starts rolling backwards, threatening to plummet off the edge. Tantu rushes to the cab to stop the rig, while Gertie struggles to close the gates. In the process, he's critically injured. As Mike arrives at the scene, he finds Gertie gravely wounded. Tantu informs Mike of Gertie's selfless act saving the rig. Holding his dying brother in his arms, Mike calls him Brother Mine, expressing his deep regret before Gertie succumbs to his injuries. At the mine, Deputy Minister O'Toole and CEO Thomason arrive, meeting with Sickle and Tager. Despite the tense situation, Thomason seems resigned to the tragic fate of the trapped miners who have been without oxygen for over 30 hours. Yet hope arrives in the form of the approaching rig carrying the much-needed wellhead, an event that triggers an emergency alarm. The sight of the returning rig shocks Sickle, who believed all the rescuers were dead. As the rig reaches its destination, medics rush to assist the injured Tantu, while Mike somberly directs them that there's no urgency for Gertie, who didn't make it. Once the wellhead is installed, the blasting team gets to work in Tunnel 6. The executives watch with a mixture of relief and apprehension as the trapped miners are finally brought to the surface. Among them, Tantu reunites with her brother Cody, pointing out Mike as the man who helped deliver the wellhead. In the midst of the emotional aftermath, CEO Thomason confronts Tager and Sickle in front of the large crowd, condemning their decision to have miners work without methane sensors, risking their lives for profit. Not one to hold back, Mike steps up and lands a punch on Sickle before the two executives are taken into custody. As the injured miners are transported to the medical center, O'Toole approaches Mike to express his gratitude and condolences. A member of the medical staff hands Mike a brochure of the Kenworth rig that Gertie always carried, a poignant reminder of his fallen brother. 3 months later, life continues. Tantu now works as a mechanic in Goldenrod's garage. One day, Mike pays her a visit. He's purchased a golden Kenworth truck in honor of Goldenrod and works independently, delivering sporting goods. As Mike departs, he tends to Skeeter, the mascot of their harrowing journey. His truck proudly displays a license plate with the letters Truck Truck Truck, a fitting tribute to the name Gertie chose. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.